Welcome to the Premier League transfer window explained. If you've ever wondered how your favorite soccer team suddenly signs a new star player, or why teams can only buy players at certain times of the year, you're in the right place. Today we're breaking down one of football's most exciting and complex systems. And if you want to stay updated on soccer finance and how the game works behind the scenes, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now let's dive in. The Premier League transfer window is essentially a designated period during which football clubs are allowed to buy and sell players. Think of it like a shopping season. During this window, teams can negotiate with other clubs, agree on transfer fees, and register new players to compete in official matches. Outside of these windows, transfers are generally not permitted, with very few exceptions. There are actually two main transfer windows every year in the Premier League. The first one is the summer window, which typically runs from June 19th through September 1st. This is the busiest and most exciting transfer period. Clubs have time to plan their spending after the previous season ends. They've received their television money, and they know which teams qualified for European competitions, which affects their budget significantly. The second window is the winter transfer window, which opens on the 1st of January and closes at the end of January. This window is much shorter and generally sees fewer high-profile moves. However, teams sometimes use this period to address urgent needs or bring in replacements for injured players. Clubs might sell fringe players to other teams and use that money strategically. Now, you might be wondering why these windows even exist. The main reason is to maintain competitive balance and stability within the league. If teams could buy and sell players whenever they wanted throughout the year, it would create chaos. Matches could be disrupted, players might jump to new teams mid-season, and the competitive integrity of the league would be compromised. The transfer window system ensures that squads remain relatively stable during the season, allowing teams to build chemistry and consistency. Another crucial reason is financial fair play and sustainability. By restricting when clubs can sign players, league officials can better monitor spending patterns and ensure that teams don't go bankrupt chasing every available player. The Premier League has strict financial regulations that prevent clubs from spending beyond their means, and the transfer window system helps enforce these rules more effectively. Let's talk about what actually happens during a transfer window. First, there's the scouting phase. Clubs have scouts and analysts who watch thousands of players around the world. They identify potential targets and assess whether these players fit their team's tactical needs and budget constraints. This phase happens continuously, but during the transfer window, the pace accelerates dramatically. Once a club identifies a target player, they approach the selling club with an offer. The two clubs then negotiate a transfer fee, which is the price one club pays to another to acquire a player's contract. These negotiations can take days, weeks, or even months. Sometimes a deal falls apart completely if the clubs cannot agree on a fee. If the clubs do agree on a fee, the player then enters contract negotiations with the buying club. The player's agent is typically involved here, negotiating wages, contract length, and other personal terms. This is where a deal can still fall through if the player and club cannot come to an agreement on salary or other conditions. Once everything is agreed upon, the deal is finalized. The buying club registers the player with the Premier League. They complete all the medical tests, and the player is officially a member of the new team. The player receives their new squad number and kit, and they can play in official matches immediately. Transfer fees can vary enormously. Some players transfer for a few £1,000,000, while elite players can command fees exceeding £100 million. The record transfer fee in Premier League history is over £200 million. These massive fees reflect not just a player's current ability, but also their age, marketability, and the buying club's financial resources. It's important to understand that transfer fees are separate from player wages. A club might pay £50 million to sign a player, but then pay that player £12 million per year in salary. Over a 5-year contract, the total investment becomes substantial. This is why clubs must carefully balance their transfer spending with their wage budgets. Now, let's discuss the concept of homegrown players. The Premier League has regulations requiring each squad to include a certain percentage of homegrown players, meaning players who were trained at English clubs for at least 3 years before age 21. This rule encourages clubs to develop young talent and protects the domestic player market. During transfer windows, clubs might prioritize signing homegrown players to meet these requirements. Loan deals are another important part of the transfer system. Sometimes a club might loan a player to another team instead of selling them permanently. The player moves temporarily, usually for a season, and then returns to their parent club. This is useful for giving young players experience, managing squad depth, or getting playing time for players who aren't regularly used. Free transfers also occur during transfer windows. These happen when a player's contract expires and they're not signed by a new club before the window closes. The player becomes available to sign with any team without a transfer fee involved. Free transfers can represent excellent value for buying clubs, though the player typically demands higher wages to compensate for the lack of a transfer fee going to their previous club. Let's explore what happens outside the transfer window. In exceptional circumstances, the Premier League does allow transfers outside the designated windows. This happens very rarely, and only in cases of genuine hardship, such as a player facing serious health issues or extreme personal circumstances. Additionally, players who are out of contract can sign with new teams at any time, even outside the transfer window. Clubs also use transfer windows strategically based on their ambitions. If a team wants to challenge for the title, they'll spend heavily during the summer window to build a competitive squad. If a team is fighting relegation, they might make emergency signings in the winter window to strengthen their team. Clubs with limited budgets might focus on free transfers or loan deals rather than paying large transfer fees. Agent fees are another crucial element of modern transfers. Player agents negotiate on behalf of their clients and typically earn a percentage of the transfer fee or a flat fee for arranging a deal. These fees can be substantial, sometimes reaching millions of pounds. This is why transfer costs are often higher than just the fee paid between clubs. The transfer window also affects team strategy and planning. Managers must decide whether to strengthen their squad immediately or maintain their existing players. Some teams believe in gradual improvement, while others make dramatic changes between seasons. The decisions made during transfer windows can define a club's season and determine whether they succeed or struggle. Young players represent special opportunities during transfer windows. Talented teenagers often move between clubs, sometimes for relatively modest fees that could prove to be incredible investments if the player develops into a star. Conversely, young players might also move for high fees if they're considered exceptionally talented prospects. International football also affects transfer windows. If a country has a major tournament like the World Cup or European Championship scheduled, it can influence transfer timing and player availability. Players returning from international tournaments might arrive late for preseason training, affecting their preparation for the new campaign. The digital age has transformed transfer windows dramatically. Clubs now use advanced analytics and video technology to evaluate players remotely. Social media and news outlets instantly report on transfer rumors, creating enormous pressure on clubs to complete deals before other teams steal their targets.